The missing guest. This incident took place in 2018 at one of the oldest hotels in Europe. The hotel, originally built in the 18th century, was once a luxurious palace designed to accommodate royal guests. Over time, it was converted into a modern hotel, but it had always been associated with mysterious occurrences, though no one took them seriously. However, one night changed everything. A strange call. At 2:15 a.m., Michael, the receptionist on duty, heard the phone ring. Exhausted, he picked up the receiver and answered politely. "Hotel reception, how may I assist you?" A man's voice on the other end sounded both startled and frightened. "There's someone in my room, walking around. I can hear the floor creaking. Please, can you check?" Michael immediately checked the hotel's security cameras for the guest's room but saw no unusual activity. Nevertheless, following protocol, he notified the security guard, George. George took the elevator up and knocked on the door. "Sir, this is hotel security. Is everything all right?" There was no response. George knocked again and waited a few more seconds. Then, using the hotel's master key, he unlocked the door. But when he stepped inside, the room was empty. A strange room. The room was in disarray. The bed appeared to have been recently slept in, the windows were shut, yet a strange cold draft filled the air. The guest was nowhere to be found. George quickly reviewed the security footage again, but no one had exited the room. The door had remained shut all night. The most chilling part was that, although the guest had checked in, his personal information was missing from the hotel system, as if he had never been there at all. The hotel's secret. The next morning, the hotel manager sat down with Michael and George to discuss the incident. The manager knew the history of that particular room well. 50 years ago, a guest had mysteriously vanished from the very same room. He was never found, only his warm bed and an open window remained. Since then, the room had been kept closed, never rented out to anyone. However, after a recent system update, the room had accidentally been made available, and the strange occurrence repeated itself. Michael and George decided to keep the incident a secret, but now they were certain, this hotel held a dark and unsettling mystery.
The mysterious hotel room. Junichi, a traveler from Japan, was on a trip to Tokyo. He booked a cheap hotel for the night. The building was old, with low ceilings and dimly lit hallways. The atmosphere felt strange, but he didn't think much of it. After all, the price was good. As he walked to his room, he noticed something odd. One of the doors in the hallway was locked and sealed with an old, yellowed piece of paper covered in Japanese characters. He didn't understand what it said, but he assumed it was just a storage room or an unused area. Shrugging it off, he entered his own room and went to bed. That night, Junichi suddenly woke up. His heart was pounding, but he didn't know why. The room was completely silent, yet he felt an eerie presence around him. Then he heard it. A faint creaking sound came from the hallway, as if someone was slowly walking on the old wooden floor. He held his breath and listened carefully. The footsteps moved closer, passing right by his room, stopping in front of the sealed door. Silence. Then, the doorknob slowly turned. Junichi's eyes widened in horror. Someone was trying to open the locked door, but it wouldn't budge. A few seconds later, there was a knock. Knock, knock, knock. His entire body froze. The air in the room grew cold. He didn't dare move. Finally, the footsteps retreated, fading into the distance. The next morning, Junichi rushed to the reception desk and asked about the noises he had heard. The receptionist's face turned pale. No one was in that hallway last night. Junichi's stomach twisted in fear. He hesitated, then asked about the sealed room. The receptionist's hands trembled as he whispered, "That room has been locked for many years. The girl inside died a long time ago." Junichi's breath caught in his throat. He recalled the footsteps, the knocking, the freezing air. Without another word, he hurried back to his room, packed his things, and left the hotel as quickly as possible. He refused to look back. As he stepped onto the street, he took one last glance at the building. The window of the sealed room was covered by dark curtains, but just at the edge he saw it. A pale, lifeless hand resting against the glass. Junichi gasped and bolted down the street, vowing never to stay in a cheap hotel again.
Edinburgh Castle, the haunted fortress of Scotland. Edinburgh Castle, one of Scotland's most famous landmarks, has a long and bloody history filled with war, executions, and mysterious deaths. Many believe that the spirits of those who perished there still roam its halls. In 2001, a paranormal study was conducted in the castle, involving over 200 participants. More than 51% of them reported unexplained phenomena, strange noises, shadowy figures, sudden cold spots, and eerie footsteps echoing through the corridors. One of the most haunted areas is the underground vaults and the prison chambers. Visitors have reported hearing whispers in the dark, feeling unseen hands touching them, and even being pushed by an invisible force. Among the most well-known spirits is the ghost of a lone piper. According to legend, centuries ago, a young piper was sent into the underground tunnels beneath the castle to explore. He played his bagpipes as he walked so that people above could track his progress. Suddenly, the music stopped. A search party was sent, but the boy had vanished without a trace. To this day, visitors claim to hear faint bagpipe music drifting through the castle at night. Edinburgh Castle remains one of the most haunted places in Scotland, attracting both tourists and paranormal investigators eager to experience its ghostly presence. Would you dare to visit?
One night, I woke up at around 3 a.m. I don't know why I woke up. My room was quiet, and it was peaceful outside. My heart was pounding, as if something was wrong. I closed my eyes, trying to calm myself down. At that moment, my phone rang. Who could be calling me at this time? I was alone at home. My parents were on a business trip. When I looked at the phone screen, it was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated to answer, but the call kept ringing, and my heart started beating faster and faster. Finally, although I was scared, I answered. Hello. My voice came out low and shaky. No answer. All I could hear was someone's heavy breathing. My heart was pounding. Who is it? I asked again. At that moment, a low, whispering voice was heard. Look outside. At that moment, my hand froze with fear. I slowly put down my phone and approached the window of my room. My heart rate increased with each beat. I slowly lifted one edge of the curtain and looked outside. The street was empty. All was silence. Only the street lamp was shining dimly. There was no one there. My phone whispered again. Look behind you now. I froze. I stood there, not knowing what to do. It felt like someone was standing behind me, staring at me. I slowly turned around, not knowing what to do. There was no one there. But this was only the beginning. At that moment, there was a soft knock on the door. Once, twice, 3 times. My breath caught in my throat. My heart felt like it was stuck in my throat. The door to my room was closed, but the shadow behind it was clearly visible in the low light. It looked like a shadow of a person, but it was strangely shaped, like it was bent and had long arms. The door handle slowly started to lower. Someone was trying to get in. I froze. My phone whispered again. I see you. Then my heart couldn't take it anymore, and I screamed loudly. The door handle slowly slid back into place. I saw the shadow disappear. Everything went silent. The next morning, my parents came back. I told them what had happened. They tried to convince me that it was just a dream. But when I checked my phone, that number was not among the recent calls. But I know I wasn't dreaming, because the door handle was slightly tilted.
He wasn't the real mailman. When I was maybe 10 to 11, I was homesick from school, and was on the couch watching TV when the doorbell rang. It was the mailman, who told me that we had gotten a package, but it was so big that he needed help carrying it. I wasn't that old, but I knew right away something was wrong. I asked him where his truck was, because I didn't see it parked out front. He kept telling me it was around the corner. I asked him why the regular mailman, who always brought lollipops, wasn't here, and I was told he was visiting family. He kept telling me to open the front door, but I politely told him that I wasn't feeling well and that I wasn't allowed to leave the house. I told him we would pick up the box from the post office, and he was telling me how much of a hassle that would be, and how my mom would want me to do her this favor. I told him that I would come outside, but that I had to get my shoes from upstairs first. I closed the front door, and locked it. Then I ran through the house and locked the back door and called my neighbor who worked from home. She was a close family friend, and I called her up screaming into the phone that she had to come over right now. Then I stood at the locked front door, and stared at the man through the window in the door. He saw me staring and yelled through the door asking if I found my shoes, so I yelled to him that I called my neighbor to help carry it because she's older and stronger. He just turned around and ran. They never caught him. I always wondered if he ever managed to trick some other kid.